Welcome to week 3 of Horror Needs a Hero Mayghties. And somebody kick on the AC because it's about to get hot. What's up, guys? Welcome to week 3 of Horror Needs a Hero Mayghties.
The topic for this episode is VIXENS. For as much as our battle cry is horror needs a hero, and by that we mean great horror icon, it's hard to argue just how important a great leading lady is to horror. We could focus on the easy, short topic of sex, and how much horror leans on a pretty girl to get adolescent boys in the door. However, the 80s started the expansion into the next generation for females. We were treated to a bevy of new characteristics for women in horror, and given a new assortment of ladies to love.
So we chose to dedicate this episode to Final Girls. I'm going to pick 2 of my favorites, as well as some honorable mentions. CP is going to do the same, and then we are going to have a very special guest because one of the VIXENS is Elvira.
Oh, they all look great doing so, by the way. Not that we needed to say that.
There is one person that I knew I had to go to talk about Elvira because she is the only one that could do her justice, and I, of course, am talking about...
Hi everybody, it's Susan, aka Horror Gal. First and foremost, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to my buddy Lee at Drumdums. I'm very flattered to have been asked to be a part of this and to be included, so thank you so much, Lee. In talking about VIXENS of horror, the first to come to mind is, of course, the Queen of Halloween herself, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. To give you a little bit of background about the origin of Elvira. In the late spring of 1981, a local Los Angeles weekend horror program was casting for a new horror hostess who would be hosting some B horror movies and commenting on them and giving some comedic relief in and around the film. At that time, Cassandra Peterson, who was an actress, also Las Vegas's youngest showgirl, a musician, and a member of the Groundlings, decided to audition. She competed against approximately 200 other hopefuls for that role, and she absolutely, of course, snagged that. With the help of her best friend at the time, Robert Redding, they actually made the image of Elvira that we know and love today. That kind of sexy punk rock goth spooky image was her and Robert's creation. Now, the first episode aired on September 26th, 1981, and in fact it really took off. After a while, it was airing nationally. Her takes on the films are so incredible and witty and fun. How many of us know different lines of Elvira dialogue and cherish those? How many people couldn't go to sleep until they heard her famous catchphrase, "Unpleasant dreams"? The movie debut of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, was in the feature film Elvira, Mistress of the Dark in 1988, which was also followed up with Elvira's Haunted Hills in 2001. Hopefully we will see another third feature film featuring Elvira. I think that would be amazing. So, Cassandra, if you're watching, come on, please. The other beautiful part about Elvira is that Cassandra Peterson, the actress, the brainchild behind Elvira, is of course an amazing person, beautiful on the inside and out. And with Cassandra Peterson herself being a horror fan and loving all of these things, Elvira kind of has a little bit more heart and soul than any other horror VIXENS, at least in my mind. Personally, Elvira is my favorite horror VIXEN because she embodies everything that any young horror-loving girl could want to aspire to be. She's sexy, witty, funny, knowledgeable, and she embraces the inner spooky. And to never take things too seriously, including yourself, and to just have a good time with horror. I think that all of us just really love and admire that. Yeah, I have so many good memories associated with Elvira when I was younger and as an adult. And I have been blessed to be able to meet Cassandra, and she is even more wonderful than anyone could have dreamed that the character of Elvira would be. And I think that Elvira is the #1 horror VIXEN, and you're not going to sway my opinion. So That's my girl. It's basically, that's why I'm here. That's my girl I have to represent. This little back history and information about Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and why she is my favorite horror vixen. Stay spooktacular.
But really, a vixen can be anything. It depends on the actress and what she brings to the table. A Heather Langenkamp might bring something different than, say, a Jamie Lee Curtis. So sometimes it's hard to put your finger on that one certain something that these women have. But first off, real quick, my honorable mentions are going to be Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser. I believe that she is the one person that can talk back to Pinhead and shut him up. Nobody else can do that. Next up is the seductress, Adrienne Barbeau. When I think of sexy, when it comes to vixens, Adrienne Barbeau is the first one that pops in my head. And everybody can remember her in that iconic role as Stevie Wayne in The Fog. And I think she is that one ingredient of The Fog that kind of puts the viewer at ease during all this imminent chaos. And then finally, my last honorable mention has got to be Heather Langenkamp. I think she's the only character in the franchise that is at an even playing ground with Freddy. No other actress can make that claim, I think, because Freddy is such a large personality. But Heather Langenkamp really is just such an awesome final girl. Everybody remembers the booby traps at the end of the first movie, and not once do you ever think that she is afraid of Freddy. She knows that she can stand up to him, she can take anything that he dishes out, she outsmarts him and brings him into the real world. And she's really just a fun character.
My first horror vixen is Sigourney Weaver. Now, we're focusing on the 80s, but two of our vixens of choice started breaking down horror walls in the late 70s. Sigourney Weaver is breaking down common final girl barriers in Alien, yet by the 80s managed to be a fully fledged sex symbol in Ghostbusters. By her role in the Alien sequel, Aliens, she had evolved from the badass chick who saved the day and takes on an even further role of hero, while this time showing that a mother figure could be the hero. Sigourney Weaver, while being a vixen, helped mold final girls taking new shape. And this all took place in the 80s.
Now my first entry is going to be Amy Steele, who played Ginny from Friday the 13th Part 2. Amy Steele actually began her career in soap operas with Guiding Light and All My Children. But her big break came in the form of Ginny Field from Friday Part 2. And this was the first entry that contained an adult Jason. If you remember the first one, Jason wasn't the killer. So Amy Steele had a lot on her plate for this movie. But from the beginning of the movie, she is put into a leadership position, which is always great for a final girl. She has all these camp counselors under her wing, and it's her responsibility to make sure that they are doing their job, they're not screwing around. But as we all know, by the end of the movie, she is the last person standing, and luck doesn't really have a lot to do with it. She applies those leadership roles to actually beating Jason, outsmarting him. And everyone can remember that scene where she makes Jason think that she's actually his mother, going as far as actually putting on the sweater. But what's really interesting is some 30 years later, we're still talking about Ginny. And that's because Amy Steele, in one role, really encapsulated everything that an actress would want to bring to the table as a final girl. If you ask me what is that secret formula, I would probably tell you that watch Friday Part 2. Really, Amy Steele had all the ingredients of the perfect final girl, and it's not an easy thing to pull off. Amy Steele would go on to play Kit Graham in another slasher, April Fool's Day. This was during the period where every holiday was up for grabs, and none were safe. And later she would have guest appearances on such TV shows as Family Ties and The A-Team. But no one can deny the impact she made as the character Ginny on Friday Part 2.
To embrace a bit of the sex symbol icon, I have Linnea Quigley.
Just so you guys know, I begged CP for Linnea Quigley. He wouldn't give her to me.
Quigley was exploiting her role as a sex symbol throughout the 80s. In films like Graduation Day, Savage Streets, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and if you ask me, the pinnacle in Return of the Living Dead, in which she was so attractive that they had to cover her nudity with fake nudity. That's powerful. Linnea Quigley was somebody who completely understood her assets and worked them well, and is still going to this day. To say that she's a cornerstone of horror is a bit of an understatement. She exemplifies why production companies target a specific audience. She's absolutely an asset.
And my last pick is going to be Jamie Lee Curtis. How could you have an episode of Vixens without Jamie Lee Curtis? She is the quintessential scream queen. She is what every actress strives to become, not only as a horror actress, but as an actress in general. She is an A-list. But Jamie Lee Curtis is so awesome because she has never forgotten her roots. A lot of actresses would like to forget their horror roots. Rooney Mara is a great example. She often puts down her role in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. But Jamie Lee Curtis talks fondly about not only Halloween, but also the other roles that she has done. Even the almost forgotten Australian film Road Games. But Jamie Lee Curtis, she is the daughter of Janet Leigh, who was in Psycho. And let's not be unrealistic here. She got the role in Halloween because of her mother's fame. But she stepped up to the plate and she did such a great job, because when you think of a final girl in the purest sense, I don't think any other character can encompass that role like the character of Laurie Strode. I mean, hell, even if you look at the clothes that she wore in the movie, she looked like something out of the 1920s. But she's so innocent, she's so pure that one cannot imagine her not lasting to the end of Halloween. And she's going up against arguably one of the most dangerous serial killers out there, Michael Myers. But if one researches Jamie Lee Curtis's slasher career, you could count at least 5 movies: Prom Night, Halloween 2, The Fog, Terror Train, and Road Games. And every one of those movies, she brought something different to each character. In movies like Prom Night and Terror Train, she's not the good girl, she's more of the average boy crazy teenager. As a matter of fact, Jamie Lee Curtis has said that she was more like those characters than she was Laurie Strode. But Curtis had cemented herself as the bona fide scream queen. No one can take that away from her. But she knew that if she wanted to continue her career in acting, she had to kind of jump ship. And she took on roles in other genres, like A Fish Called Wanda, and also True Lies. Jamie Lee Curtis is still a power player, and she's jumped back into horror in TV with shows like Scream Queens. And I have to give her mad props, because she's stepping out of the shadow of her mother, who was in one of the greatest horror films of all time, Psycho. And then she's a major reason why the movie Halloween becomes such a groundbreaking film in horror, and really set the slate for the slasher craze that would follow, you know, some 6 years later.
I've kind of blended my third pick. I'm kind of loosely covering a generic collection of women, and that's the reluctant vixen. Sticking with my series, Friday the 13th, there are countless final girls from that series who could have gone on to do things, yet decided that it wasn't for them. Actresses like Kimberly Beck from Friday the 13th Final Chapter, Jennifer Cook from Jason Lives, even as far back as the original Adrienne King. It's another reason why we have to thank Jamie Lee Curtis for kind of going legit. Lots of women in horror get typecast as horror or nothing, or exploitation or nothing, and a lot of these actresses feel like it's just not for them. And unfortunately, roads to more serious work just get closed for them. While some actors may turn the cheek for the work, I think these actresses should be commended for sticking to their morals and deciding to just stop. Sure, we'd love to see them in other things, but if they don't want to do it, would you want to watch them?
So anyway, guys, that is our episode of Vixens for Horror Needs a Hero Mayghties.
And we're certainly thankful for the vast contributions from these women.
CP and I would definitely like to thank Horror Gal Susan for giving us all that great information on Elvira. And stay tuned next week for Zach, where he's going to be talking about horror directors. Anyway, guys, from the Blood Brothers, have a great day and keep it horror.